Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is a coach and professional trainer. Today's guest is Kyle Smith. Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, Kyle. So, like I said before I hit record, I've had a couple of your training clients on here just within the last couple of weeks. Austin Simpson and Carlos Thomas Jr. They spoke very highly of you, so I wanted to reach out to you and kind of just get a little bit more of your story, man. So excited to chop it up with you. The first question I have for you, Kyle, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Man, that's a good question. So I'm gonna say my three and the reason why. So number one will be Dorian Yates, because I believe he's the one that brought size to the industry, and his work ethic was unmatched. And he was somebody who was so focused on building his physique at the highest level and not worry about what anybody else was doing. And the second one, I'm gonna say Ronnie Coleman. I'm sure it's very common, just for the simple fact that he seemed like a very humble guy, crazy mass, great proportions, flow, structure, insanely strong, and I like a lot of his principles behind training. And the third one, I'm gonna have to go with Dexter Jackson, because I believe from head to toe, he's probably one of the most complete bodybuilders ever, and had the most winnings in the pro level, and retired with great health. And he beat a lot of mass monsters as well.
That's it doesn't get much better than Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, and Dexter Jackson. I love it. So tell us, Kyle, when did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
Yeah, man, sure. So it's kind of multiple paths, really. Originally my oldest brother RJ got me into weightlifting. I was 7, he was 12. He kind of followed what my dad did. Well, what our dad did, and he saw our dad work out in the basement, doing chest and doing all this stuff. But that was a really strong guy. So my oldest brother, I have two brothers, and I'm the youngest of the three. So we all did everything together. Rather, when it came to watching movies, hanging out, fighting each other, all that stuff. So my oldest brother, he got interested in it, and just made me do it. He kind of like forced me to do it, to be honest. Again, I was 7 years old, and I wasn't really into it at first. I kind of hated it, to be honest, on the first few weeks. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing some significant difference in my strength patterns and how I looked at a very early age. And I just kind of got obsessed with it. And then I wanted to see who else was doing this. And then that's when my father mentioned, well, the movies with Terminator and Commando, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was Mr. Olympia. I was like, what's that? So he showed me some magazines and stuff, and I was hooked ever since. Cool. Never looked back.
Love that, man. That's great. 7 years old. That's pretty young to start
way too young.
Weights, huh?
Way too young.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of depends, I guess, your perspective. But I think that's super cool, man. All right. So Kyle, I want to kind of get a little bit more into your backstory. That's really kind of the focus of this podcast, is getting behind the muscle. So we all have a story, right? We all see kind of the highlight reels on Instagram, but I kind of want to learn a little bit more about your childhood. So talk about where you grew up. Talk about, did you play sports? Paint that picture of your earlier years for us up to about high school, and then stop there because I've got some questions that kind of transition us from there.
For sure. Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, relatively same area as Carlos Thomas Jr. Even though we didn't know each other then, obviously, but we're all the same age. And so I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, and all the way until I was in the mid-teens. But anyway, as far as what I was doing that time frame, me and my brother, we all played outside sports. So we did basketball, football, stuff like that within our community. My parents weren't we didn't grow up with a strong financial background, so we wasn't involved in a lot of activities. Besides the two main things that my father thought was most important. So we did karate and boxing. That's one thing he made sure we did. My parents were big on us learning how to defend ourselves at an early age. So that's always been the mess of my background, even to this day, of combat training.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. We moved toward Newcastle, then Bear, Delaware. And then I played sports, wrestling and football up until high school. And then that's pretty much it from there.
Okay. Now, talk to me a little bit, Kyle, about your relationship with your two older brothers. I mean, did you guys, get along in terms of, what was your relationship like? I know you said you fought, which that's what kind of brothers do, but were you pretty close with your brothers? Were you close with one of them, or how did that kind of look for you when you were younger?
Yeah, so we were very close, even to this day. We're very close. We have a very strong bond. I would say my middle brother Jonathan, he's the one that has a mental disability, and I would say, to be honest, I look up to him as an idol, because he's done a lot in his life that you would never think you would never know his condition if you didn't know the story behind him. So he was somebody that I looked up to. But me and RJ, my oldest brother, we all were close. RJ was the one that was right behind, supporting me with everything I'd done. Rather it was fighting, bodybuilding. He was behind everything. Even if he didn't understand what I was doing, he still was down for it anyway. So we were really close growing up, and even as we got older. But when we were younger, we did fight a lot bicker about a lot of bullshit, really. But we all played sports with each other. We all supported each other. Also, we had a very amazing brotherly relationship for sure.
Excellent. Talk a little bit more about your parents. What did they kind of instill in you when you were younger, or what were some of the things that they kind of passed along to you as you were growing up, Kyle, you and your brothers?
Yeah, so our parents were really big on work ethic, number one, respect, and how to communicate. That was the biggest things they embedded in our brains, was to respect everybody, learn to be open with communication, and be a hard worker. Because that's like my father was so big on that, because he really believed that the hardest worker makes the most noise about seeing anything. So my dad ran his own business. He did auto upholstery work, and that's what my oldest brother did as well. My mother was in the she was in the dental field, and but both of them were really big on more concerned about us learning how to make our own way without relying on anybody. So I would also say we had a really good relationship with our parents. They were very supportive in that sense, for sure. But man, when it came, trouble is definitely, we never want to come home. That's for sure. Growing up, discipline was a high thing in our household.
Excellent, man. Okay, now before we kind of move on from the younger years, you mentioned karate and boxing, and kind of like those combat sports, and it's something that sounds like you might be still involved with. What did karate and boxing? What did that kind of teach you as a child, as a young person growing up? What were some of the values that were instilled in you through those combat sports specifically, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So we did karate first. Did karate from age 4 up to age 9. And I say karate taught me how to really maneuver my body, physically use my body in different elements, right? It taught me how to be on time, discipline, listen, because you have to follow instructions. And my attention span, if I wasn't enjoying something, I could not pay attention no matter what it was. I just couldn't do it. And I enjoyed it because it's very competitive. I was scared, so it made me pay attention more. So I didn't stand out in the bad way. And then I got into boxing because I remember growing up, fighting in school and stuff was very common for us growing up. So no, I would say some of the stuff I tried to do with karate did not work for me. So I wasn't really good with my hands. So my brother was heavily involved in boxing. He said, maybe we should get involved in boxing so you know how to use your hands better. And we got involved in boxing. We did sparring. We did a lot of different camps. And So we done that. Boxing taught me how to be agile, how to time better, how to be more patient, how to learn how to be okay under pressure, and to learn how to pretty much use whatever advantage you have with the other person. So I would say that really helped me a lot throughout my life, actually.
Cool. I love it, man. Okay, so once you were kind of getting to that point where you're a teenager, a lot of us start thinking about maybe like a job or a career, going to college. When you were in high school, Kyle, what were you kind of thinking about you wanted to do when you quote unquote grew up? And then once you graduated high school, did you move in that direction? Did life kind of take you in a different direction? Start unpacking some of those thoughts in high school of what you wanted to do, and then once you graduated, how did life unfold?
Yeah, it's so funny you asked that because I actually did a post on this on Facebook a year ago. So I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer when I was in the 8th grade. I already knew I wanted to be a personal trainer. So, because by the time I was 13, I was already illegally training family and friends in my neighborhood because I just want to learn. I was training people for free all the way until I was 17 because you got to be certified at age 18. So I was obsessed with the body and how the body can adapt to certain things from speed, strength, and muscular development really early on. So by the time high school came around, freshman year, again, I'm not saying this is a good thing because I wish I had a different perspective at the time, but I already knew I wanted to be a personal trainer and a bodybuilder. So I had no care to go to college. So I remember to this day, a brief story. I was in English class and we had to write a paper on what career path I want to take after high school for college. They made it seem like as if everybody wanted to go to college. That's how the question was based on. And I put in my essay that I want to pursue personal training due to I'm very obsessed with the human body. I love how you can change different people's demographic adaptations when it comes to physique development. I was really excited about it. And my teacher, middle of the class, told everybody pretty much what not to put on your paper and said, choosing personal training is not a career. That's a side job. They usually get somebody to step the stone to get you a career. And then, of course, no. About 4 years after that, no, I went back to do a career day and I had my own business. But so I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer early on. So by the time I got to high school, I got certified through ISSA. Yeah, ISSA. And I worked through a company in Newcastle, Delaware with Fred Smalls, Beyond Physiques. Fred Smalls also a pro bodybuilder, FYI. I worked through his business and I worked my way up to be his head trainer there for like 4 to 5 years. And then I eventually launched out and did my own thing.
Okay. So before we get into the weeds of coaching and training and all that, now, obviously you started lifting weights at a pretty young age and stuff, Kyle, but how did you, like when you were like a tween or a teenager, how did you kind of get exposed to, the human body, and where did that attraction of like working with the human body and knowing at such a young age that you wanted to be a trainer? Because, probably back when you and I were growing up, being a personal trainer wasn't necessarily like, a career, right? Like the school counselors weren't going to encourage us to go be personal trainers. So where did those seeds get implanted in your mind that you had this obsession at such a young age in terms of the human body and being a trainer? Because I think that's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, sure. So I was never a big reader, right? So I hate reading, but my brother had a muscle mag at the time, and I believe it was Ronnie Coleman doing the curl on the front of the magazine, and he was a freak. And that was when I was 12 or 13. And I said, man, so I was big look at pictures. And then I learned if I read what the picture was trying to explain, I'll have a better idea what they're talking about. So I got heavily involved in reading the magazines, and I used to take notes on what they was eating, what type of training split they was doing, that I would try to apply it myself. And so I would say it started out by me actually reading the magazines. And then once I was once I started reading the magazines, I was with the type of person that want to know why behind everything, the why. So I want to know who wrote this article. So I looked the person up. Now I realized Honey Rambo read a lot of articles. I didn't know he was at the time. Christina did some. Doug Vernoli, who recently passed away, he's done some. So I started to buy books that were based on anatomy and training and physiology about the human body. It had nothing to do with necessarily bodybuilding, but it related to it. Because I want to have a better understanding of what I was even reading about. And reading excelled me to maneuver my direction of the path of the human body, how to advance muscular development, what movements did what, why would you do it, how long should you do it for, trying to find the science behind things and then also apply to see if it makes sense to me. And that's how I got really involved in that.
Super cool, man. Now, have you competed in some bodybuilding competitions? If so, talk about that, Kyle.
Yes, absolutely. So I started bodybuilding. I did my first bodybuilding show when I was 18. I originally wasn't going to do team nationals, but I ended up turning 18. So I ended up saying, you know what, I was going to do the Baltimore Classic. No, sorry, I did the Big Cat Classic. Did that show, got second place. At the time, I didn't really know anything about PEDs, any of that. So did my first two shows natural, did really well. And then as I did longer all season with my coach to put on more size, muscle maturity, that's when I started to go that route. And I did about 5 bodybuilding shows. And up until I was 24, I mean, I had a pretty good solid base on me. I was around 230, pretty good base on me. But my passion of competing, I was so heavily involved in growing the clientele base I had. And I was more interested in the training aspect and mostly that only. So I ended up stopping bodybuilding because I didn't want to really continue the route that I would need to do. And from a financial perspective, it's very expensive to compete. So it's going to be a little off topic, but I actually went back to boxing. So I left bodybuilding, went to a whole opposite sport. Well, attempted opposite sport, boxing. So I had to lose a lot of muscle because, it's all about advantages, being limber and speed. So I went to the boxing route, lost a lot of weight too fast due to being uneducated with the nutritional side of things to properly do it, ruined my gut health severely. And again, Crohn's disease, lost a lot of blood. It's long story short. And I ended up never pursuing boxing. By that point, I'm like, man, I'm about to be 27 years old, I'm getting old for this shit. Like, these cats are 17, 18 years old, going Golden Gloves, they're working their way up. I'm too far behind. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to worry about being competitive at any sport no more. Let me prioritize my education, my experience, and help them excel in their journey while they're still young. And that's the route I took.
Cool. Okay. Now let's take a step back. So you get certified, when you're 18 years old to be a personal trainer. Now you kind of touched on lightly, working your way up and then being Fred Biggie Smalls, a trainer. And I saw that actually on your Instagram. I did a little research on you before our conversation. And obviously most people that are going to be watching and listening to this that are diehard bodybuilding people like us will know who Fred Biggie Smalls was. He was a great 212 bodybuilder. So why don't you talk a little bit about that experience and how you were able to work your way up and train him? Because on your Instagram post about Fred, you really gave him a lot of praise in terms of he basically kind of gave you that first big opportunity with an IFBB Pro. So why don't you start us off there, Kyle, and then kind of just unpack how you began to grow your own business, grow your clientele, and just share that a little bit more, please.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I started out. So how it all started was I was working out at the gym that he was training. So he ran his own business side of the gym, right? So he has no personal training company, right? And I was one of his clients at one point because I was bodybuilding, right? And he was getting ready for his first Arnold Classic. I'll never forget it. And I was finishing my workout. His mill was still doing the workout, and some guy kept bothering about questions about training. And Fred said, "Hey, Kyle, do you know how to do a proper row?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll keep show this guy because he's kind of bothering me." I ended up training the guy, right? Breaking down about mechanics, how to go about this and that. And he was so mind blown at what I knew so early. He said, "Man, how long have you been a trainer?" I said, "Well, recently got certified, but I'm technically not a full blown trainer per se." He said, "Man, you showing these people way more stuff than my own trainers know you've done for years. I would love to have you part of my team." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, trust me, man. You'll make a lot of money at it. You're so passionate. I can see it in your eyes when you explain stuff to this guy." I said, "I'll give it a shot." So I ended up being a trainer through his business, and this what excelled was I was so obsessed with learning. So I learned a lot through his principles. Because Fred has over 25 years of experience. He worked with all the best coaches in the world, so he had a lot of knowledge as well. So I picked his brain about tempo and how to do certain movements, and then I really applied that to my clients. Then I started researching on why we're doing certain things, and then I got to the point where we ended up being trainer partners, right? So we were trainer partners for like 4 years. Now I believe I helped him excel in his career as a bodybuilder, and that also helped me too. But towards the end of that time frame, I was just so obsessed with learning more and more and more, and I got to the point where I felt like I was confident to step out and run my own business. So Fred gave me the courage to do so because I was confident. He was the first person I actually put through a workout that was a big guy. Because when you train somebody with a lot of muscle tissue, you have to manipulate their biomechanics on certain things because he can't fit in certain machines, or the way he's on a press is a little different than somebody who's a lot smaller. So learn how to maneuver around somebody that size. So it gave me more confidence to train bigger guys who wanted to get to compete or just be a bigger person in general. So so he was the first one I actually I wouldn't say I trained him. We were training partners, but there were a lot of times where he'll let me run the show. Like, come, go ahead and do our program for this month. And we'll do it back and forth and stuff. So it was awesome. But once I left his company to run my own business, I was already being mentored through Charles Poliquin, rest in peace, John Meadows. They were the pioneers who helped me excel in my career. Me and John Meadows, we was big on WhatsApp and the email because I was one of his last mentees he did before he stopped doing mentorships. So I did mentorship through him, learned a mountain dog technique behind his principle behind training. It's called Training with Madness. So I learned a lot of his principles. Charles Poliquin, a lot of his principles. And then I kept wanting to learn more and more and more. And then I made a huge investment to N1 education. I'll give a shout out to Coach Cassim, Adam Miller, all the guys at N1. They're the ones who really, really took nuances to a whole new level when it comes to training, execution, program designs. So I went through their course. Prior to that, as I said, I did NASM, did ACE, all those generic courses. But N1 education was a course that if you didn't know basic anatomy and biomechanics, you would have been lost, right? So I already had his background for being obsessed with at an early age, so it kind of went back to that. So the N1 course that I took, it's for those who, in my opinion, is for those who are very advanced, who already knows the human body, physiology a little bit, because they get right to the nuances behind programming. So I did their course online. Then I went to their site, the headquarters in Nevada. I went through the 5-day educational camp, learned so much stuff. And I think what helps me excel in the trenches of personal training is I know exactly how to utilize these protocols. It's a big difference when somebody is again, I'm not knocking nobody, but when you do programming through a computer to somebody, nothing's going to be accurate in person. So be in the trenches and breaking down the biomechanics, adjusting their limbs and how they're going to go through the eccentric, the concentric, the tempo, and all that stuff, it would actually change in person because you're seeing it live. And that's why I always stay with personal training, because I'm applying advanced knowledge and I can actually program to each individual. Rather you're a lifestyle client, a professional athlete, or somebody who's battling a lot of health issues, I know how to maneuver programming for anybody.
Excellent, man. Okay, now, so Fred Smalls was a huge influence in your earlier years. What do you feel like, besides just him giving you an opportunity, referring to Fred? What else did you kind of learn from him or glean from him that you feel like really gave you maybe an edge in terms of a personal trainer when you were that young?
Yeah, so I would definitely say he taught me how to create attraction within training, meaning use intensity. When you train, you gotta put in effort, right? A program is only good if you can actually apply effort. If you can't apply effort, then the threshold to be met won't be there for you to see changes. So he made me learn that quickly when I was training with him, and then being around him and just being able to be in the scene of bodybuilding, because he was a very known guy in the industry, still is. So being around him, going to the photo shoots, video shoots, traveling with training, and he always mentioned me as his workout partner. So I'm like, damn, why have such a young workout partner? He said, well, he's so knowledgeable, he's a workhorse, and he'll make you push yourself. So it made people pretty much draw to me because they want to see if this guy is training with this kid, he must know something. So that was the edge I had because I was the only one who was able to be next to him in the trenches of training, applying things with him, learning what he was explaining, and then be able to grasp it and apply it, and just be so consistent with him. And he always talked highly of me, which might ask, who's Kyle? Who's this? He'll say, man, this is somebody going to be very special one day in the future. He's extremely knowledgeable, very passionate. He even helps me when I train. If you want to get with anybody, got to get with him. So he really helped me believe in myself on top of making people assume I must be good. And then when they find out that actually was good, it was a good mesh. You know what I mean? So I got to give him credit for that.
So, who was after Fred? I mean, who was kind of like the next IFBB Pro that you had an opportunity to maybe really not train with, but actually train? Talk a little bit about that in terms of the evolution of starting with Fred, kind of being his training partner. He's kind of mentoring you, things like that, and then talk about the evolution of actually training high level bodybuilders, Kyle, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So the first one actually, okay, so it's two steps, right? So I was training a guy named Malik Johnson, who's an IFBB Pro Men Physique competitor. I was training him for nationals. Well, I was training him for his first show. Did his first show, won the overall, trained for nationals, boom, won, turned pro. Then I trained for New York Pro, got I think got like 15th there, something like that. And then on the spit end, I was actually with Carlos. So I knew Carlos very early because his first coach was Fred Smalls, and that's how I met Carlos. And at the time, I was competing very competitively. Carlos just got involved in bodybuilding, so it was kind of like in the very beginning, it was kind of like I was like a big brother to him in that sense. But he excelled beyond limits, right? So not even the same category, but we really had a great friendship even early on, even though I wasn't training him anything yet, but I always see him when he came to do his check-ins and stuff. We'd talk and talk about training and stuff. And then I even helped train him for Fred a few times. And then as years went on, I remember we were following each other on social media. I was going back and forth with him and his father, Carlos Sr. I gave his dad a call. I'll never forget it. 2019, give his dad a call. I said, listen, man, I truly believe I can take Carlos to the next level. I want to train him. What we got to do to get him in my hands for me to push him so we can make him a monster. So they took me on, and we made tremendous improvements. We started when he was 184 pounds, and we've been training together ever since. Up until I was still training, I was still personally training him, but I was getting all his training programming, everything from since 2019 up until like about 4 or 5 weeks ago. We talked about, man, I think because now with me growing my business, I have a lot of clients, a lot going on, and I want to make sure that he's in the best hands. We both agree that it'd be nice if I kept personal training him and had someone else take over the training program. So that's when he linked up with Luke Miller, who's also somebody I look up to. And because I know Luke knows his stuff, he's very educated, very involved in the scene. Someone that I admire. I also pick his brain a lot of all his content he be posting and stuff like that. And I've done the John Jewett University and stuff. So I've done all their courses, and so I knew it's in good hands. So now we have Luke handling the training programming, and then I put Carl through the trenches of it, because Luke does programming pretty a little bit different than me, but I would say he's trying to explain, because I know all about the advanced biomechanics. So when you want Carl to manipulate his torso positioning, drive down to his hip, doing a lat pull now, I know he's trying to get out of it. So being there in person and putting him through his own plan, it makes him that much more efficient to keep, from a neural connection perspective, he can actually grasp it and actually excel in the program. So Carlos was the next one, put a lot of size on insanely. And then I had an opportunity to train Nick Walker a few times, train him a few times. I did Vegan Grind's training program 2 years ago for the Spain, and then for the Olympia. Nicky McGuire, who's also a figure pro. And it's just amazing, because once somebody sees how well you do with one person who's really excelling, it just makes people very curious. And that's what it takes. Because you gotta realize, right? Before that, I always thought, man, I know so much stuff and I'm so passionate. Why nobody give me an opportunity? At the end of the day, if nobody sees you with somebody that they can admire, they're not going to really reach out, because they need to be confident that you know what you're doing, right? So it's true. Kind of like with Matt Jensen is also somebody that I look up to, right? So Matt Jensen, nobody really gave him a shot until Dallas McCarver. Once that happened, now look at his career. You know what I mean? It's not like he just started knowing stuff. He been new stuff, but if you're not a pro bodybuilder who's a coach, they're going to take you serious for whatever reason, right? But since he did so well with Dallas and multiple other pros, now look, he has one of the highest profile of athletes in the world.
What was it like, training Nick Walker for the sessions that you did?
Yeah, it was awesome, man, because I trained a few times when he was getting ready for nationals. I put him through a chest and shoulder day, and then a lower body day. That's also on his YouTube channel. It was awesome because I always said with Nick, it's very similar to Carlos. He's willing to open up and listen, right? He knows I might not be nowhere big as him, but he don't give a shit. As long as you know what you're talking about and it works, I'm gonna try it. So it was a good experience. I got a lot of exposure from it, but more than anything, I just love putting big motherfuckers through a workout, and they're like, "Damn, I just want to leave." You know what I mean? So it was a great experience, and just training somebody with that much muscle tissue and adjusting his body on certain things, it was really awesome.
So Austin Simpson, somebody that you train, and he was just on the podcast last week. Why don't you talk about his potential? Because I know he's got big aspirations in terms of being an IFBB pro and taking it as far as he can. So how long have you been working with Austin, and talk about what you think as a trainer in terms of his potential?
Yeah, man. I actually met Austin at I can't never say it right, the Battle of the Royer. I can't say it right, that show. I was there for Carlos, because that was Carlos' first show after 4 years off. And we were backstage. I was getting Carlos ready. And Austin, we met there, but small conversation. But I could tell, I knew he was new, because he was looking around a lot. You could tell he was a little nervous. But I didn't know him. I'm there for Carlos. I'm focusing on Carlos, right? But I saw, man, this kid got potential, man. Damn. The muscle bellies and the amount of density he has. And I would never knew that was his first show. I would never knew that. So after Carlos did that show, won the overall there, then we went to nationals, and he was there for nationals, and at nationals, Carlos won the overall. I know Austin, I think he placed towards the end of the third call outs, and his prep didn't go as planned based on whatever him and his coach did at the time, whatever. But I remember he sent me a DM and said, "Hey man, I really need to take my career to a different path. I think you'd be a good fit for training because it seems like you do a lot of training." I said, "Yes, as long as you understand, I don't touch. I retire from prep coaching. I only do the training aspect. As long as I'm not stepping nobody's toes, I'll handle a training program. And as long as I know what you're eating, what you're taking, I know how to structure the training stimulus so we get the most out of it." And he was open to it. He came out to Delaware, about a 2-hour drive from where he's at, and he wanted to first focus on his chest. And what happened was, so I had him pretty much do a half an hour of whatever he would normally do for chest. I could see it. And I said, "Listen, I'll tell you something." He said, "What?" I said, "I think you didn't do shit for your chest." He said, "Huh?" I said, "You're so front dominant. You're initiating with your shoulders." So we adjusted the bench, his humerus angle, and how had his sternal position on the bench, and big difference. He was like, "I need you. We got to get started." So we started, and he put on so much muscle, man. We started to work together literally roughly like, I'll say about 3 months after nationals, 3-4 months after nationals, or less than that. Not quite a year yet, but almost a year. And put a lot of size on, build his back up. His legs came up. Obviously, we still want to get him bigger and bigger, of course. That one body part we know we need to keep working on. But his back came up, and I really think he'll do extreme damage there. I have high confidence if he comes in peeled and full, he nails his posing. There's no doubt in my mind he can get his pro card.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a great victory because, well, for one, even if he just plays would be a victory because going from dinner dead last to moving up multiple spots alone is amazing. Let alone going to actually confident win it. I'm really happy for him. I think once he turns pro, he's gonna have a long career ahead of him because he's so young.
Yeah, for sure. And I believe Milos is actually his nutrition prep coach, correct?
Yes, we go back and forth about his stuff. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, Kyle, because I feel like the in-person personal trainer, the person that's really just focusing on training clients and people in a gym, it seems to be like we're kind of the dinosaurs. It seems like it's kind of a thing in the past now because it seems like everybody wants to be an online coach. Nobody wants to spend the hours in the gym. And I get it because there's flexibility and you can make more money possibly and things like that. I get all that. But so I want you to talk about, because you said you train people. You stopped doing the prep stuff a long time ago. So talk about why you just focus on training people in the gym and you're not interested in necessarily like taking somebody through a 20-week prep. Talk about why you've kind of left that behind, please.
Yeah, sure. So I do want to mention I do a lot of lifestyle nutrition clients just from my background as a functional nutritionist. So I do a lot of nutrition for my lifestyle clients. But one of the last talks I had with John Meadows was he said, if you want to be great, you got to be a master at something, not a man of many things. You want to execute one area, stay at that. That way you put all your focus in there. You can apply everything moving forward as you continue education in that direction. So, and it came, and he was right because what started in the first place was me in the gym working out, and that went to personal training, right? So I said, you know what? I'm gonna stay in my niche. My niche is personal training, taking the body through its highest potential possible, making people do what they thought they couldn't do, and do it and not get hurt. So I do a lot of hybrid coaching for sure, but the reason why I stay in the midst of personal training, I've been doing this for well over a decade, is because I just fucking love hands-on seeing it. Yes, I'm aware that you're going to have a cap how much money you can charge, right? But obviously I'm not cheap, but I'm not cheap for a reason. So I only train clients who are serious. You only be a pro. You can be anybody, as long as you're serious and you understand my knowledge and background, my experience. It'd be worth your time and investment. So I only train serious clients. But the reason why I stick with it outside of being passionate is because I could make adjustments on the spot. Like, for example, Austin last weekend was training for shoulders. And I saw him do a movement for prone raises and wasn't hitting the muscle I wanted to hit because the way he was angled. So we made adjustments and said, whoa, big difference. That excited me because, damn, if I wasn't here, he would have kept doing the same thing. And for hybrid coaching, that's where it can go left. Because the problem I have with hybrid coaching is because if you only do hybrid coaching, nothing wrong with that. But if you never have hands-on experience, your programming level is only based on textbook. And it's not necessarily going to be, it's hard to put so much science stuff into real life applications. Because if you tell somebody to do a superset with dumbbell press with a cable fly, but that's going to cross a whole different gym, the person will never be able to do it because it's busy in there. But if you didn't know about that, this person might be trying to wing it around, and it's delaying their actual training stimulus or what they're trying to get out of it, right? So being in there, seeing that, adjusting things, and being able to make minor cues here and there when it comes to them doing the lift makes a big difference. You can't do that when you have 100 of online clients doing a program and they're like with hybrid coaching, the biggest thing you can have them do is give you video footage feedback, right? But the problem is they went through the whole workout probably doing it wrong with the video they sent you. You know what I mean? So in person, I can adjust it right then and there, stop that. Of course, I have a lot of clients, overseas, within the States. So of course that's different. But a lot of my clients that I do programming for online, they have trainers. I also do mentoring. So I mentor a lot of their trainers. So they understand what I'm trying to get out of a protocol. So that makes a difference, right? Because I always tell my clients that I do online for, I highly recommend having a trainer that's followed the program I'm giving you. Because you want to get the most out of your program. If you're somebody who's a new trainee, and we're trying to program for metabolic hypertrophy, where that's based on the amount of effort and rest ratio that drives the metabolic response. If you don't know what that looks like, outside of me telling you it, you might never be doing it, or you're driving too high metabolic to oxidative stress. Whereas there's a trainer there that understands this, he can give better feedback and make adjustments. So some people say you don't need a trainer, it's corny, but I think when it comes to your physique, it's well worth the investment to get proper training. And that way you see the results, you're reaping the benefits from it, and you're learning,
Yeah. Now you said that you kind of, you mentor trainers then. Is that something that you offer to anybody? Like what does that look like for you, kind of passing your experience and knowledge on to other trainers so that you can help them?
Yeah, so I do short mentor classes where it'll be like up to like 10 to 15 mentees. They would which we'll lay out like once a week to come in, put them through like different training blocks, like how to do a proper sternal press, costal fly, a quicker dumbbell press, a proper squat, try to get more knee flexion based on the person's femur. All these so much from a anatomy and biomechanics perspective, and they love it, man. So, but now with my schedule very busy, I kind of pull back on it. But I'm also going to be doing that soon in the future because now I also launched my business at Anarchy Gym in Maryland, where Austin trains out of now. So I'm also there too now doing training. So now I'll do some more workshops there. So yes, with that being said, I do offer mentorships. It just that's not I do full time now.
Now, in terms of your personal training business, Kyle, do you have like your own location in terms of a gym, or do you just train out of a couple gyms with your own personal training business?
Yeah, so I have my own private gym. I have my own gym, and I originally put it to be a training studio, but I ended up buying all the top equipment like Prime Fitness, Sidebacks, you name it, right? So I have a lot of good quality equipment in my gym. And I said, you know what? I want to make it a private gym for those come in for personal training only, and those who personal training program want to use my facility. And then I also have great access from gym owners allowed me to train pro like Carlos at a training center gym. The owner gave me access to train him there based on the equipment they have. Because Carlos can, he can dumbbells, man. He can, he's done like 160, 170, 180s. I have 125 dumbbells, so kind of limited, right? So training him there and just getting the atmosphere changes and people working out, it drives his motive to push harder and harder. So yeah, so some gyms give me access to train clients there, but no headaches. But I do also have my own gym that I will be closing down end of this year because I will be relocating to Maryland to be at Anarchist Gym full time and be in the Newcastle Gym 3 times a week for Carlos. So I will be at 2 different spots without a location because I just want to strictly go to personal training and have no overhead, no crazy expenses. So,
yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you, Kyle, because I always want to try to give some takeaways, or I want the viewers, the listeners to kind of be able to, if they're starting out, I always want to give them some tidbits to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of them pursuing their dreams, whether that's competing or coaching, what have you. So you don't need to go to college to be a personal trainer, right? We know that. But if somebody is like you, they're let's say they're 16, 17 years old, they're thinking about post high school, they know they want to be a personal trainer. Where would you suggest somebody like you were as a teenager, all these years later, where would you suggest somebody that wants to just be a personal trainer starting out to start? What generic certifications can they get? What path should they take nowadays, if you don't mind sharing that, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I love creating blueprints of success for other trainers because obviously I believe we need more of them. The biggest route I would take is the same route I did. From this aspect, I would get a generic cert. I'm not disrespecting NASA and none of them, but to me they're generic. So I'll get one of their certs, so you are eligible to legally train clients. I will invest my money into mentorships to those are way light years ahead of you who can give you the rundown so you can skip all the mistakes that I made. That's what I would do.
Now, in terms of mentorships, I know I actually just earlier today I had Luke Miller on the podcast from J3 University. Awesome guy. Would you highly recommend J3 University for somebody that wants to be a trainer, that wants to be a coach? Is that maybe one of those mentorship type programs that is highly reputable that you would suggest somebody starting off to invest in?
You know what's funny about that? I actually did their course twice. So yes, I highly suggest it because again, they are, I would say they are really advanced the way they explain terms, but they give you a rundown of everything that's related to what you're saying. So their course, it allows you to move at your own pace. So you could they have all these modules and you go through them with video clips, quick quizzes, and then you move to the next chapter and stuff like that. I love it because they go over training, nutrition, recovery, training ability, a lot of stuff that obviously I'm heavily involved in. So like I said, me and Luke Miller, we have a similar background. Obviously, he extended a different path of his way of understanding neuroscience. But so he explained stuff in a much more detailed way than I could. So I like doing some of his courses just to give me a more better way to even explain something or takeaways. So I think his courses, I think the JD3 University. Yeah, I think that's an amazing course. I've done it twice. I think it's very awesome.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so in terms of recovery, you know, whether that's like tissue work, chiropractic work, whatever is out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. What do you like to see? Let's just like use Carlos or Austin Simpson as an example. Guys that want to create the most enhancement in terms of their physique. They're bodybuilders. What type of recovery should some of these athletes be pursuing in terms of physique enhancement from your personal perspective, Kyle?
Yeah, 100%. The biggest one is something that me and Carl's been really focusing on the past couple of years. It's something that obviously me and Austin been working on day one. Because as saying that to everybody, I'm getting more advanced by knowledge every day. I smarter today than I was yesterday, and that's me every day, right? So, managing fatigue throughout your frequency of your training split is number one. Because if you're not managing your fatigue with an adaptation that you're trying to align to achieve, you're going to run yourself to the ground where now you have to get multiple deep tissue work. You're going to have to deload more often than usual, more rest days than normal because you're so beat down. So I recommend, number one, managing fatigue within your training split, so you're not overdoing junk volume. And two, obviously, adequate rest days, make sure you get a proper sleep, hydration, and definitely deep tissue work. That with any adhesion, anything that you flush in, that get better circulation, blood flow, and then chiropractic work too, especially when you're doing a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of compression happens in the spine, the pelvis, and thorax overall. So getting chiropractic work is really very great as well. Those three, and then obviously nutrition. I mean, so it's going to be your recoverability from training, your nutrition, adequate sleep, hydration, get deep tissue work, and chiropractic when it's needed.
Perfect. What are some issues that are common when you have athletes come in and start training with you? You mentioned Austin, some of the adjustments you made for his chest and shoulder training, but what are some of the issues or the, I guess, malfunctions within movement, specifically with bodybuilders, that are very common when you start training them? Talk about that if you don't mind, Kyle.
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, usually bodybuilders are so obsessed with barbells. So they're so used to doing a pronated grip and a lot of things they do, a lot of delt dominant movements. So, and even when they're doing, the back movements, they're always doing a pronated or a full supinated grip stuff. So they're never really hitting their lower lat fibers, really prioritizing their thoracic lat divisions. They're hitting the upper back. So what I noticed with a lot of big guys, they, as they're doing any back movement, they initiate by yanking with the shoulder and not compressing their humerus down, drawing the elbow back when they're doing their lats. So neutral grip from roughly high to low, and then even doing a slight bend as you go into the movement. Rowing, slight hinge, driving through your lats to shorten. A lot of stuff that see guys at the bigger guys do for back. They do a lot of hunching over, a lot of yanking. Because everybody thinks about max effort, which is intensity of load. But sometimes if the setup is not right, the execution doesn't mean shit. So a lot of stuff that I had to break down. Even with Carlos, he had such big arms. So throughout his career for back development, we really had to wean out a lot of movements that a lot of people claim they were back builders, but it wasn't building his back. So we prioritize fixed machine, like a fixed machine, but we will make it like we use the 90 angle 90 grips to adjust his hand positioning. We're doing certain movements on a fixed machine to get the most out of it, because a lot of barbell work, his former extensors, his brachialis, his take over, and he can't really get much out of his back. So, and then with Austin, he's a fucking strong freak. So with him, it was about stop worrying about the weight, worry about the execution throughout your repetitions. And once we understood that, learned to build a narrow connection, he managed to really feel his chest, his back when we trained. And now he's able to reduce the load he was using to get better technique. And now he's back to using the heavy load he was with better technique. So now he's putting all his muscle on, great execution, actually understands the movement, and his physique, expanded. And same with Carlos. It's about minor adjustments. So what I tell trainers is when you train somebody, especially somebody like that, if the setup is not right, the execution is not going to matter. You can't tell somebody to draw the humerus down and then bring the elbow to their head if they're so vertical or something. I mean, like, you got to get the setup down, and then is less cues being explained throughout the movement. The more you have to give cues, clearly that setup was shitty in the first place.
That's golden. Now, free weights versus machines, and I want to just ask you, when somebody's younger, Kyle, they're kind of just starting off in weight training and bodybuilding, do you feel like getting a foundation with free weights is important, or do you feel like we just put way too much emphasis within bodybuilding on free weights and machines can be implemented as soon as you start lifting weights? Like, talk about that, because I guess I was trained by somebody from the 60s and 70s in the golden era of bodybuilding, and it was all free weights, right? It was barbell squat, it was dumbbell bench, it was barbell bench. Like, that's all I knew. But as I've gotten older, and I personally believe mind to muscle connection it's everything. I feel like it's the next level of a muscular development, right? Like, if you don't have your mind connected to your muscle, you're not going to have that experience that you could while lifting weights. And I just feel like there really is a place for machines because it can lock you in. And I just feel like if I'm in a good position with the machine, I can really get a better mind to muscle connection. That's me personally. What say you?
Man, you nailed it, man. So I'm going to piggyback off of that. So the reason why so many people favor towards the barbell and dumbbells is because everybody refers back to the golden era, right? But the problem is that's majority all they had, right? So if they had an Arsenal, Panada, Prime equipment, I'm pretty sure they'd be using that more often. So I'm a big believer in you have to develop a narrow connection first. Otherwise, you just muscle through the movement using poor biomechanics. So I'm big on using both. But, like, for example, when it comes to for chest, most people, beginners, they have a hard time feeling the chest, right? I remember, for example, when I was really young, the first time I did a barbell press, next day my arms were sore. So I thought, it's an arm movement. I'm thinking about I did arms today. It was not an arm movement. But when you're lacking narrow muscle development with narrow connection, you got to realize your levers are going to take over and try to help with the demand that you're applying. So I tell newbies, new trainees, we need to establish, understand the movement, applying tempo, learn how to go through the concentric, through the eccentric, and timing where the load of resistance is being applied at. So I like doing machines, and machines I like to use are machines that actually lines up with proper arm path or rowing or hinging or whatever. So machines, and then I like free weights only because I do believe that you have to get your central nervous system to be able to handle loading, right? And from a neurological perspective, free weights will help grasp that a little more better, because if you can handle loading your nervous system and trying to manage your stability, you're going to have a better way to recover between sets. We go to a fixed machine, the lineup, the arm path is consistent from A to B. You can manage the execution. Your recovery is not as beat down from a free weight, so your recovery should be that much better now. So I like doing both. So when I do my programming designs, not to go off topic, but I periodize the stimulus. So let's say if you came to me, right, and you go to get jacked, obviously I'm not to go over, what you've been doing. If you're telling me you've been constantly doing 8 to 12 reps for a year, clearly that threshold got so high you can no longer create adaptations to it, right? So I would deload you out of that, put you a different stimulus that would have a lower threshold that can be met to drive adaptations. So when you get back to what you did before, now you get to reach the benefits of it again. So It's about what's trainable, how can we recover from it, and how can we know when to deload based on the feedback we're getting. When I say deload, I'm not saying arrest it. I'm saying deload out of that type of block into another block with a whole different principle.
Where do you feel like your passion for learning and this like insatiable drive to learn more and more and more comes from? Do you feel like that's something from your childhood, Kyle, or is that something that you developed as you got a little bit older?
Yes, it honestly, it started at a very early age. I was never really into video games. I wasn't really much at anything. Once I got to fitness and felt I was pretty good at it. Cause when I was younger, I had a bad lisp. I still do. Speech impediment and stuttering a lot. And I didn't like a whole lot of social. So I really gravitated towards reading, and that indirectly built my speech impediment better. I don't stutter as much, and I was getting smarter. And it's something I like because throughout my elementary school, middle school, and high school, I was never in the smartest classes. I was in special ed classes, and I was never excelling in my high GPA or anything. I did not excel in any of my classes. Only health and gym class I was really good at, and so it started early because I felt like that's something I could connect with, and I felt I could be good at. And I got so obsessed. Like I'm telling you, in middle school and high school, if you for example, if you was late to class or whatever too many times, they give you in school detention. I used to do it on purpose so I could go there and read my books all day. You know what I mean? So I was very weird with that stuff, but like I was so obsessed with reading and learning, and that helped me got to this point, and now I'm always still curious the why this, why that. So the path of learning was always in me since I was little.
Beautiful, man. So cool. Kyle, we're going to kind of stop right there. I think we've really hit a lot of areas in your life and in bodybuilding and training. I do have kind of a fun question I sometimes like to ask people just to wrap things up. What are a couple of your top gym pet peeves?
Cool, man. I'll say being on your cell phone while you're in the middle of working out. And two, this is me and Carlos talk about this all the time. It shouldn't be a pet peeve. It shouldn't be. But I believe when you come to the gym, you should be following a program. Like if you train on Tuesday, you should do the same shit you did last Tuesday. I said I hate when I go to the gym to train a client on myself, and there's somebody doing a machine, knowing they're not going to do it ever again, and I need to get on it. So that, and then be somebody interrupting when I'm middle of training a client. So now I wear a shirt that said "Don't disturb."
Yeah. I like it, man.
But so they're my main pet peeves.
Yeah, perfect. Good stuff. All right, Kyle. First of all, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, sharing your life story, your bodybuilding story, your coaching story, dude. I really feel like I learned a lot. Everybody that listened and is going to watch this, they're going to learn a lot and take away, man. So thank you so much. Before I do a quick outro and I let you go, I do want to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts, any final words. Give us your Instagram. If somebody wants to connect with you, where can we connect with you? Anything that you want to leave us with, Kyle. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll do a quick outro and that'll be a wrap. So platform is yours, my man.
Awesome. So if anybody is interested in personal training or learn how to apply training to your programming, please reach out to me on my Instagram. It's at Coach Kyle Smith. And also check out NRC's Gym at NRC's Gym on Instagram. And also let us know your feedback.
All right, Kyle. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
For sure. You're very welcome. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I value all of you. And if it weren't for all of you, the podcast simply would not exist. So thank you so much for all of your guys' support. If you have not subscribed to BTM on YouTube, make sure you do that. That's really important because I release all these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, CastBox, Podbean, and some of the other major podcast platforms. So please, if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button on YouTube for Behind the Muscle Podcast. And then the last favor I would ask of all of you, take this episode with Kyle, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Kyle, tag Behind the Muscle Podcast, so that we know that you specifically listened to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.